Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so before I begin, I would like all of you to close your eyes again, and I'll play our imaginary scenario for you. Okay, so imagine yourself in a house one day, when you suddenly hear a loud bang, and the next thing you know, your house is almost gone. Now, when you try running away from the noise, okay, you find yourself face to face with a territorial neighbor of yours. One day, if you take one step closer and encroach into his territory, you'll be in for a life or death fight. Now, going home, you realize that your kitchen and your food sources are more or less destroyed, and the noise that actually destroyed your house continues throughout the day, drowning out any form of communication between you, your family, and your friends. Now, what will you do? Okay, so the above scenario, you can open your eyes now. The above scenario is actually a combination of scenarios that the territorial pangolin, Sunda pangolin will face, and the noise-sensitive strip-tailed barbets would face when their habitats are divided or fragmented. And now as I'm talking to you and as you are listening to me, this could actually be happening because their home, the Central Catchment Nature Reserve, or CCNR for short, is actually being fragmented due to site investigation works for a railway line known as the Cross Island Line, or the CRL. So as a volunteer guide with the BES Drongos, we are a nature group that conducts public guided walks in the MacRitchie Reservoir. In addition to intensive research on the Cross Island Line, I would like to actually show you why you need to sign a petition against the Cross Island Line cutting through the nature reserve, and at the same time, I would like you to do the same as well. But first, let's look at how this problem actually arose. So in 2013, the Land Transport Authority of Singapore released a plan that shows a new line that will actually bring you from the east to the west of Singapore. So this 50 kilometers line is actually touted to decrease ride time taken to travel from the east to the west, as well as release current pressures on the MRT lines. But 2 kilometers of this line will actually cut through the Central Catchment Nature Reserve in green here, and it is actually the largest continuous patch of rainforest in Singapore today and home to over 900 species of flora and fauna. So from 2014 to 2016, the government actually conducted an EIA, or Environmental Impact Assessment, to determine what the potential impacts of site investigation works, or studies to determine how the soil profile of the Central Catchment Nature is. And according to the results, which was released last year, they actually said that there will be moderate impact. And as a result, the site investigation works today have been carried out, were commenced since last month. However, this does not mean that the MRT line will definitely go through the Central Catchment Nature Reserve, because there is a less damaging alternative available. So this alternative was proposed by the Nature Society Singapore. It is Singapore's largest and oldest green group in Singapore today. So this line, rather than going through the nature reserve, it will actually go around it through Upper Thomson Road, Lornie Road, as well as it will circumvent the nature reserve instead. When it was first announced, the government said that, hey, this will actually cost us $2 billion more, as well as 6 minutes added travelling time. However, Dr. Vilma, who is from the National Institute of Education in Singapore, argued that this cost can actually be recouped because you're actually ferrying passengers that live along the edge of the reservoir. In addition, it will also relieve pressure such as your road traffic congestions along the expressway and the highways along the nature reserve. Moreover, experts that the Straits Times spoke to argued that this additional $2 billion will actually work up to about less than 5% of the total cost using estimates from prior MRT lines. And Dr. Sean Lam, who is from the Asian Institute of Environment in Singapore, argued that we should actually think that the added cost and added time required should be taken into consideration, especially if this means preserving our nature reserve. Moreover, public opinions will be taken into account before the government actually decides on which route to take. So for now, the government is actually conducting focus group discussions with engineers, consultants, green groups, and even people living along the edge of the reservoir before coming to a conclusion whether or not should they go through it or around it. And through my survey, most of you actually indicated that you do know that there will be environmental impacts to it, but you don't know what you can do. So first, you can actually check out the EIA. So the EIA, the government actually released it for the public to take a look. And you can actually email to the respective government agencies to voice out your opinions. But strength comes in numbers, and there are many other things that you can do. First, you can actually sign a petition. So this petition is created by the Love Refugee Movement. It's a collaborative effort by nation groups in Singapore in response to the Cross Island Line. So this petition takes less than a minute to complete and less than 5 minutes to submit. This petition is actually an indication of how the public opinions of the Cross Island Line and the results will actually be sent to the LTA. You can also take part in guided walks by the Love Refugee Nature groups. You can sign up for them to learn more about the biodiversity as well as impacts about the Cross Island Line. Thirdly, you can also share your opinions or your views about the Cross Island Line on Facebook and social media in order to spread the word. And John C. Sawhill, who is the former president of the Nature Conservancy, once said that, society is not defined by what we create, but rather by what we destroy. So do you know that Singapore has actually lost over 90% of its forest cover over the past few decades? This is a result of our industrialization policies. And because of this, most of our forests are actually concentrated in the Central Catchment Nature Reserve, and some of them are actually over centuries old, and they're ancient ecosystems. So some people during my guided public walks have actually asked me, why should we actually bother about some patch of forest greens in Singapore, in the middle of Singapore? Well, because contrary to popular belief, actually Singapore does have biodiversity, and it is a way to actually, just clear away all this precious biodiversity just because we don't want to actually add on another 6 minutes to our travelling time. And most of these are part of our natural heritage, and they can be found only in our little red dot, which is Singapore. And in addition, the forest is not only for flora and fauna to thrive. So do you know that we can actually exercise in the nature reserve? You can go out for educational trips, and the nature reserve also helps to cool down our surrounding built environment. So do you know that research by Ng and Yuk in 2009 found out that forests are actually 4 degrees cooler than our CBD area, such as Orchard Road? Yeah, so with forests, we can actually help to cool down our built environment, which actually traps heat from the sun during the day. So this picture actually shows you some of the ecosystems that the route will actually cut through, such as the wetland forest, wetland marsh, and the primary rainforest, which are patches left in Singapore, one of the few patches left in Singapore. And these are some pictures showing you what you can do over there. For example, you can take part in kayaking, you can take part in running exercises, and as well as the little streams that actually keep the forest cool. So now, rather than pondering, what can you do, or what can you do now to actually state your stand on this Cross Island Line and the Central Catchment Nature Reserve? Well, so despite the alternative line available, fragmentation is currently carrying out in our nature reserve because of the results of the EIA. But there is an alternative, and we can push for it together, not just by word of mouth, but by action as well. So as the saying goes, don't talk, act. Don't say, show, and don't promise, proof. So this is one thing you can do. You can actually look up on infographics on the EIA, because the EIA that I told you about just now is actually 1,000 pages long. So rather than reading through the entire pages, there are actually infographics that can actually break it down for you into bite-sized pieces. Next, you can also sign up for a guided tour, and remember, they're actually free. But for now, I think the first 2 weeks of April is actually full up. So do follow the news and keep updated with the results. But lastly, what you can do is to actually sign the petition and join the chorus of voices, currently 10,000 as of June 2016, to persuade the LTA to actually reroute the line around the nature reserve instead. So with more input, more voices, great things are done with a series of small things put together, and I hope that you actually start by signing the petition. Thank you. Thank you.